The Just Lead Advancing Racial Equity Conference, hosted by New Detroit, brought together national and local speakers who provided compelling insights into racial equity and justice. Khary Fraiser, Detroit is Different, provides you conversations with some of the phenomenal guests, talking dismantling racism with collaborative solutions.
I'm Faye Nemer, and I'm at Just Lead 2023.
All right, Detroit is Different here at the Just Lead Conference for New Detroit 2023. And I have Faye Nemer with the Arab American Chamber of Commerce. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
All is well, all is well. So when we think of conferences like this and racial equity, a lot of things come into play. So the first thing I want to talk a little bit about, Metro Detroit is so racially segregated. How do you feel housing contributes to racial equity, especially in regions like this?
Housing?
Yes.
So I think in the matter of housing, at the very fundamental base regarding housing equity is access to capital. And that was one of the points that we covered during today's conference is how do we eliminate those unconscious biases and ensure that there's a level playing field when you're approaching a financial institution and having the same opportunities in order to access those resources that have been put in place in order to mitigate and minimize the racial inequities that we've witnessed in housing.
All right, and racial equity is about getting to measurable outcomes. How do you see business organizations coming about drafting and creating measurable outcomes for racial equity?
So that's actually one of the questions that I had for the panelists today is maybe the single most demotivating and demoralizing aspect that I'm seeing in the legislative and judicial ecosystem currently is the fact that they're unraveling some of the safeguards and internal controls that are currently available to measure those tangible outcomes. For instance, the unraveling of affirmative action from an admissions, college admissions standpoint, or challenging the SBA programming for underserved and economically disadvantaged communities or businesses. Those are opportunities that are not the basis or nor the areas that you want to challenge in terms of driving and advancing racial equity. Rather, we need to bolster and enhance the scorecard and the ability to measure the magnitude of impact in this space. And that's something that we're working on collectively. One of the initiatives that New Detroit initiative that they're taking on, along with various community organizations that we're a part of, is looking at DEI from a lens of measuring those tangible outcomes. How can we integrate processes into our respective organizations in order to increase the magnitude of impact of DEI initiatives? So I think it's a work in progress, but that's something that we need to work on collectively.
Definitely. So that leads to the story of Arab Americans, especially when we think of this region. It's profound. Mm-hmm. And racial equity and the inclusiveness in that discussion. How do you advocate for that? And then how does the community, the greater community, support that in a region like this, especially when we even think about global tensions possibly impacting, and ain't no possibly, realistically do impact the ways that we embrace Arab Americans?
And that's a great question. One of the ways that we counter that issue and address it on the ground within the bounds of the American Arab Chamber of Commerce is we instill and pursue the aspects of a Council of Ethnic Chamber. And that's where we bring together over 16 ethnic chambers locally in order to work collectively and coalition build towards these common objectives. And it's not just ensuring that the Arab American businesses and, from a commerce standpoint, have a seat at the table. We want to make sure that our counterparts across the other ethnic chambers also have a voice, because I'm a huge proponent of ensuring that we have a diversified and unique perspective from each of those individual ethnic chambers at the helm of the table. And I think that's what really drives real change, is not just ensuring that my cohort and my community is represented, but ensuring that across our Council of Ethnic Chambers that they're also represented and they have a fair representation for their respective communities.